Joe Rogan actually had Dave Smith and Doug Murray on to debate Israel Palestine. And it is very interesting when you get somebody as high up as Doug Murray to hear the talking points that he uses to defend Israel.
I don't know who that is. Am I supposed to know who that is?
He's from the UK. But
okay. Lee, do you know who that is?
I know who the other two are. I don't know who Doug Murray is.
Okay.
We're about to find out.
Have to be on the ground and do an audit of the blockade in order to be able to comment on it?
I think you should at least know what it is, what the territory is, what the situation is in the region. Yes, absolutely.
And the only way to do that is to be there in person.
I think that's the best way. It's not the only way, but it's the best way, for sure. For sure. If you have never seen the countries in question, you've never spoken to the people in question, you've never interviewed anyone, you've never gone around, you've never seen the terrain, and so on, and you've used Wikipedia, I'm sorry, no, that's not the same thing.
Okay, well, I've not just used Wikipedia, but didn't you write a big piece when the war in Ukraine first came out, titled something like, "Been to Ukraine and they can win, they can repel the Russians"? So you could go there and still get it wrong, right?
No, I was with the Ukrainian armed forces in 2022 when they were retaking territory from the Russians.
Right, the last time they had any advances,
Yeah,
right.
I said I can see how they can win, which will be advances like that, yeah.
You said if we just fund them, or if we just arm them, that they can then
they can
repel.
I said that the Ukrainian army was making great successes, which it was when I was with them in the fall of 22.
Okay, listen, there were...
Notice the tell. The tell is always the same every fucking time. I'm not a forensic FBI agent. I promise you I'm not. But the second a person who's trying to convince you that they're full of shit and trying to get away with it and they don't know what the talking point is, they always look in another direction. So, of course, Murray decided to start looking in the other direction when Dave Smith brought up the fact that, weren't you the same motherfucker that went on national TV and basically said that if we just continue funding Ukraine, they're eventually going to beat Russia? And that was over 3 years ago. And you said that shit? And people still go to you that he's the answer? These fucking people, they all need to be in The Hague as far as I'm concerned. And they all do it for money.
Lots of people who went to Iraq and said, we'll be greeted as liberators and it'll be paid for in oil and democracy will spread through the region. So I don't know. Either take on the arguments or don't. But I don't think
but your argument's incorrect.
Oh, okay, fine. Well, then present a counter argument to it. But to just tell me I'm not allowed to talk about something because I'm not an expert.
You're not allowed to
okay,
talk
fine.
About
well, you're
it.
not an expert, so you shouldn't talk about it. You
now.
haven't been there. Yeah, I know. But you keep playing this game where it's like the whole opening to this podcast was like the non-experts talking about this is such a problem. Now you're saying because I haven't been there, I can't talk about it. Is there a blockade there that's causing economic devastation or not? According to the World Bank, there is.
First of all, I don't think it's a game. I don't think it's a game at all.
Me neither.
I'm not playing a game. Okay,
but this is semantics.
No, but this is important. I've seen.
So he asked him a question. Is the blockade causing devastation to Gaza? And he doesn't want to answer.
No, this is classic con man stuff. These are all the fucking pathetic arguments that people who don't want to address the real discussion have said again and again and again for the past year and a half, but since time immemorial. Oh, you haven't been there like I was. Now, who knows how long he was there? How long was he in Gaza, you know? Okay, so 5 years ago, he was there for a couple of days, and that makes him an expert. It's all garbage. It's like I wasn't in the Holocaust, all right? I can have an opinion on the Holocaust. It is bullshit to say, oh, you haven't been there for a few days, therefore, you just need to let this genocide happen and back up. It's disgusting and revolting. And now he doesn't want to answer this latest accusation. So he says, what was the last thing he said? I don't think it's a game. That's another thing is like they find one word you said and they make the debate about that word. Oh, see, you think it's a game. Let's talk about the word game. It's like, no, that's not the discussion thing.
Oh, and that's the problem with the Brits is that they think.
I don't even know who this is. That's why it's great. I have no idea who that is.
Now, Doug Murray is he's considered a smart conservative intellectual.
Don't do that. When you do that, you always effeminate all British men.
That is not true.
You do though. You make them all sound like the male version of Mary Poppins.
Well, If you'd rather that I just talk to him
Don't
like
do the Irish.
No,
Stop
I'm
it.
definitely doing the Irish.
Oh,
This
good
stupid
God.
bloke don't know jack shit. He doesn't know what he's talking about. And just
A little
remember,
bit less effeminate, but
Brits-
now you sound like Lucky Charms.
just
Stop.
remember, the Brits suck because they put themselves with the Israel flag, just like the numbnuts over in the Americas.
Oh.
But just remember that Ireland, we always put the Palestinian flag first.
Yeah,
and we
but you
never-
still sign off on weapons and still trade with them. Continue.
And seriously, kudos to the Irish for always standing with Palestine. They
do on one hand, but then they don't really do. But anyway, continue.
Plenty of this up.
Oh, you know something? Because I was just watching Claire Daly and, oh my God, I forget his name, On with Katie. You know who I'm talking about? They used to be the guy, white-haired
guy. Yeah, I forgot. Shit.
It's like his name is Mick, and I don't want to say that in a derogatory way, but I really think his name is Mick.
No. But
anyway.
You got a thought, Lee.
Yeah, I was just gonna say the other thing that makes this like you haven't been there argument so laughable is, okay, so what about the millions living in Gaza right now who say it's a genocide? Do they not count either? Just the white guy who went to visit for a few days is the only voice that can be heard on this. Like,
you know what that is, Peter? You know what that is? That's caucasity right there. You know how you always want I'll give you the examples whenever I see it. I'll call it.
It's good to know that Doug Murray is 100% a caucastic son of a bitch. Good.
There you go.
Close. I've seen plenty of this with my own eyes because I do believe.
You mean just like the raped children? Is it that too?
Beheaded babies. You mean the
One of
beheaded
things you
babies
should
in the
do,
ovens?
if you're talking about something, is to see it.
Yeah, you've established
Okay,
that.
but
Is there a
that's-
blockade?
The blockade that existed, to the extent it existed, was a blockade to try to make sure that the Israelis and the Egyptians knew what materials were going in and out of Gaza after the first rocket fires, when Hamas, in fact, before Hamas was elected. The Israelis and the Egyptians didn't do a very good job of it, were meant to be trying to make sure that the materials that went into Gaza were not materials that could be used to build up the Gazan Hamas war machine. The reason why trucks get searched is not because the Israelis want to search through grain or flour. It's because they wanted to stop the trucks containing the arms and the munitions that the Gazan Hamas and Islamic Jihad fighters were going to use to fire against Israel.
Now, the question
because they're not allowed to self-defense, right? So they're not allowed to, like, that's my thing is, okay, even if it is right, but the fact that somebody gets to control what someone else can, like,
right. I love these things where it's like so much to pick apart in one sentence that you're like, all right, well, let's go for like half an hour to pick apart this. Okay, for one, he said when Hamas got elected, we're talking 2006, I believe. So apparently since 2006, Israel has the right to decide every last piece of grain that enters Gaza. Yep. And then he says, oh, they just are looking for guns. Bullshit. They have decided whether medical equipment gets in, whether food gets in, whether water gets in. They have leaked emails from WikiLeaks have shown that they literally said we're going to put Gaza on a diet and we keep a certain number of calories going in there so that it's actually less than what a human adult should have, so that they're all starved and on the brink of collapse. These things have been going on for decades. Like, oh yeah, they just stopped guns going in. But then what you just said, Jen, is the biggest point. I like to play the game, even if it were true. Right. Even if it were true that they're not letting guns in. Why is it that Gaza and the West Bank aren't entitled to an army while every other country in the world is? Oh, because they're not allowed to be a country, because they're not allowed to be a people, because they're in refugee camps, because they're prisoners under Israel. So it's like, yeah, that would be fucked up even if that were true.
Right. Well, so that's the thing. So anybody, whether he's doing it right now, but sitting there and making the argument that Israel is just keeping certain things, whatever it is, I don't care about keeping things from someplace else that should be its own entity.
Right.
It's the whole problem. The fact that they can turn off the water, the fact that they like all of that, that's the whole problem. And he's sitting there as if that basic premise is perfectly fine because he's a white supremacist. So to him, it's okay that one country is able to do that to another people in general. It's okay that they get to monitor their mail like they're in a prison.
Yeah. And I'm sorry, It just makes the most obvious strategic sense. As the late great Joan Rivers once said, if as an appeal to authority.
That one I'll allow. That one I like.
She also said that Michelle Obama's a man.
Yeah, I know she did that.
No, I'm saying she got everything right. So continue. Go ahead.
But as Joan Rivers said, if New York was being rocketed from New Jersey, we would level New Jersey. I don't think you need to level it, by the way. But you would at least try to make sure that rockets weren't being imported in larger quantities into New Jersey.
Of course.
Okay.
But if New York had weapons in large quantities, why would they get to decide that New Jersey doesn't get to?
Exactly. He had to pick 2 U.S. states in the same country. If Mexico, like, are we allowed to decide whether Mexico has guns or missiles? Like, no. So he had to pick 2 states in the same country to make it make any kind of sense.
It's ridiculous. Well, and it's funny you bring up Mexico because I saw as soon as Sheinbaum got elected there and I really saw the writing on the wall with getting Trump in again, I'm like, oh, this is going to be fun. Because I knew he wouldn't know what to do with her. He cannot handle her. First of all, she's attractive and smart. He doesn't know what to do with that.
Well, that's totally not true. I totally can handle her. She just
he won't be mean to her. He won't. And she's not having any of his. Can you imagine what she must think of him? Seriously, like what kind of buffoon moron must she think he is?
Well,
the same as all the rest of us.
Yeah, really.